Welcome, thank you for coming. How many people know why you're here? Okay, a couple people, good. I'm Mark Miller. I run the Trusted Software Alliance and the OWASP 24/7 podcast series, if you're listening to that. We reached 50,000 listens last night because of the interviews that we did with the prospective board members. So things are going well with that project. I'm also the community evangelist for Sonatype. We're upstairs somewhere, so you can find us if you need it there. What we're going to do is, first of all, we're going to talk to Kevin Green about the project itself, and then we're going to talk to people that are participating in the Swamp project to talk about their tool, why they are in the swamp, what's the purpose of their tool being in the swamp, and then anything else that they want to talk about. So we'll start that way. Kevin, I'll say good morning to you, and you can introduce yourself and say hi to everybody. It's still morning to you. No, it's morning.
So I'm Kevin Green, the program manager for the Software Assurance Marketplace, which is a $23.5 million project over 5 years. And really, I'm excited about this panel discussion because it's really a great opportunity for government and industry really to come together to really work on a very, what I consider a very, very hard problem, which is software security. So essentially, to give you a backdrop of the swamp, and the overall goal we're trying to accomplish with the swamp is very simple. We're really trying to improve overall software quality by implementing principles of continuous assurance. We also want to help tool developers, open source tool developers, commercial tool developers, really raise the bar and improve the performance of their tools. As we've seen with Heartbleed, none of the tools were able to detect the weakness that led to Heartbleed. So that says there is room for improvement. So by having a collaborative research environment like the Swamp, like any laboratory, scientists use laboratories to find new breakthroughs in science. And I think the Swamp kind of serves as the same thing. We want to find new breakthroughs in software analysis capabilities and really raise the bar of tools. Because studies have shown that as tools get better, is the likelihood to adopt them early in the software development process significantly increases. So that's one of the things we're trying to do. So the earlier you get a tool, as Morel Liberty would say, do it early, do it often. As soon as you get good performing tools in the hands of the folks who need to use them, I think you're in a better place. And the other thing is really, as we look at third-party software, embedding software, the whole notion of the software supply chain becomes a really critical component, and having something like a Swamp as an infrastructure to really vet third-party software and provide the necessary analysis capabilities is a strong value proposition that we think goes very well with being able to improve the overall quality of software. So I'm excited about this partnership. Just like any supermarket, you go in the store, there are store name brand products and stuff. So what we're saying here today, we're bringing name brands to the table. Bringing name brands to the table makes the Swamp a little bit more attractive and gives the community better options in terms of doing software analysis. So I'm very excited about that. I'm not going to take any more of your time. I think we have some very smart folks up here, and I think I want to hear from them, and I think you all want to hear from them as well, to talk about what this partnership means for them and what this partnership means for the overall software assurance community. Thank you.
Thank you. When you said we have some very smart people up here, these guys started looking at each other, and he's talking about you. Back and forth.
So we should probably start that and we'll go in.
Okay.
Arthur. Hi, sure. My name is Arthur Hicken. I work at Parasoft. I've been there for 22 years. And we make a bunch of different tools, but primarily what's important here today is we make static analysis tools, and we partner with Swamp.
Thank you. Mark.
My name is Mark Severance. I'm from Grammatech, and we also make static analysis tools for analyzing source code and binary. So we're excited to be working with this one.
My name is Rafak. I'm come from Sydney, Australia. We're also in static analysis for C and C++ code. We originally come out of a research lab, and we are focusing on deep security as well as quality issues in large code bases.
Hi, I'm Chris Weissopel. I'm the CTO and co-founder of Veracode. Veracode is not a tool, we're a service, so we're a little different in that respect. That will be hooked into the Swamp via an API as opposed to an executable. And we do static analysis on binaries only.
Hi, I'm Ken Kroll from Secure Decisions. We develop a solution called CodeDX. We don't actually do detection of vulnerabilities. What we do is we take in the results of all the different tools, open source commercial tools, aggregate them all together, correlate and normalize the results, provide a way to view the results, do your triage and analysis, and figure out what's most important across all the different tools that you may be running.
So I'm Bart Miller, and I'm on the faculty at the University of Wisconsin, but here as my role as chief scientist for the Swamp. And my role is sort of ringleader of all the tools technology. And we've done a lot of assessment work ourselves, done some tool work ourselves, so it's really cool to work with these folks who are really skilled at this. Our goal in the Swamp is to bring together a family of tools. Any one of you can download a single tool and run to your desktop, and with some amount of ease or some amount of pain, depending upon the tool, get it to work, and then try to interpret the results and figure out what settings. The goal of the Swamp is to automate that and bring together all of these technologies. And each of these tools is good at different sorts of things, and bringing together this, we like to say an orchestra instead of a single instrument together. So as a Swamp, we're trying to automate that highly, bring it in, build your software, done, and all these great tools can be run together. You only have to know one interface, one structure, one results viewer. We're producing the glue that automates that, some of the transformations and formatting things to standardize results. And then each time we find a really good tool provider, and this table is an example of some very good ones we found, they bring it in and your results get better and better. So we have, right now if you look at the Swamp, you see our open source tools, and over the next short while you're going to start seeing the tools from these folks start to appear, and your results will just get better and better and better. You won't do anything different as a tool user, except to check a few different toolboxes, but you'll see the results get better and better, and that's sort of the unique capability. And now I'm going to shut up because we want to hear about what makes these guys, what their secret sauce is.
I need you for about 35 more seconds. And that is, let's say somebody says, I want to use the Swamp. Before we get to the tools, give me a 30-second view. What's it going to do? How do I go in? How do I get started?
You go to continuousassurance.org and say, I want to sign up. Fill out some forms, and then upload your software. Select some tools to run, and go. I mean, there's no magic, there's no hoops. Go in, sign up, upload some software. If you're a tool developer and you want to bring your tool in, we don't quite have the slick, just uploaded interfaces for that, but we work very closely with tool developers, and we'll set up a work environment for you. So it's a little less auto magic for tool developers, but it just takes a few conversations with us to get started.
There you go. I was in a meeting with these guys for the last hour, just to let you know, they're very willing to work with the community. If you have something that you want to do, if you need something that you need to talk to them about on this project, they're going to get back to you. So don't hesitate to contact Art and his team to do that. I want to start with you, Arthur. We're going to start looking at the tool set first, so we get a vision. Arthur, what did you put in the Swamp? What's that?
At the moment, we have our static analysis tool for C and C++, and eventually we'll have a Java one there as well.
Okay. Why did you choose that tool of yours? You've got more than one tool. Why did you choose that?
There's actually two tools, C-test and J-test, right?
Do you have J-test in the work?
We have J-test as well.
Oh, okay, so I stand corrected. It's both the Java and the C and C++. So that the idea was to start with the static analysis. I think that's really where the Swamp is starting as well. We have lots of things we want to eventually make a lot of them available there, but it's a great place to start when you're developing code, is really get going, and it's an easier start. It's less complex to set up. And I've found myself, I've been playing with cloud setups for development recently, like actually in the browser. And the idea that I can not install tools, not update tools, not configure tools. It's amazing. Once you do it, it sounds weird, but once you do it, it's so great that you never want to install something again. So the fact that these guys are installing for you and configuring for you, it's a big plus in my mind.
Nice. Mark, what tools did you put in? What's one?
Yeah, so we're putting in Grammatech's flagship tool, which is Code Sonar. And it's basically static analysis on source code or binary code, or if you have a mixture of source code, like some of the application code, and then binary libraries, it analyzes that and produces a report of vulnerabilities and other programming defects. And of course, it's going to be displayed in the reporting infrastructure that Swamp has come up with. So they have a very nice architecture where they can fuse results from multiple tools, and so we will be basically one of the tools that's populated.
Mark brings up a really good point, is that you're not going to get individual results necessary from each tool. This is an aggregation set, right? You can run as many of these tools as you want and get the report back. That's pretty extended.
Yeah, we're offering our main tool from Red Lizard Software, which is called Goena, or in this case it's Goena Central, which is sort of the command line build server version. Normally we use this to integrate into build processes like make, CMake, scons, and so on. The command line version in this case will feed into the CodeDX dashboard, so you can see all the results. As I mentioned before, it's for C and C++. We also have an IDE integration for Eclipse Visual Studio, a lot of embedded environments, which is not in the Swarm because it's let's say we have a more mainstream focus at the moment in terms of the code bases. It's mostly GCC compilable rather than some exotic embedded compiler. And yeah, so that's really what we are looking forward to, and getting some feedback on that.
Chris, you've got a very widely known company you're participating in. What'd you put in?
So we're making our static binary analysis service available, and the way a customer interacts with our service is either through a web interface or through our APIs. And the APIs are really designed to tie into a build environment to send us the binary once it's been built, and or to tie into defect tracking systems. So like one's we call it our upload API, the other API is our results API to pull down the results. So these APIs allow the Swamp to interact with our service to both send us the binary for analysis, and when the results are ready, pull them down in XML format and integrate it into the Swamp results. So from a user's point of view, you essentially can't tell the difference between a hosted tool and a service-based tool. So the results come back, you select them uniformly, there's magic underneath, you use these really nice APIs, and you see the results, they're integrated in the same viewer. So it's not just you don't have to worry about building, you don't have to worry about accessing the service, it's just all, we go in and do that for you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we've been involved with the Swamp since the inception. It's currently available in the version that's online now. And the challenge that we aim to solve is, especially as you're bringing more tools, then you're going to get a lot more data that you have to sift through. And so CodeDX was designed, it's a nice visual interface that you can go in and triage the results. You can see where multiple tools are pointing to the same issues. So maybe there's more confidence that those results are something you want to look at first. So there's various different ways of triaging. You can collaborate with users. You can mark weaknesses as false positives, or all types of collaboration that you expect from an analysis tool, but you can work across different tools. And for the open source tools, a lot of them don't have the visual interface. So CodeDX brings that capability. So if someone's developing a new tool, maybe an OAuth tool, and they don't want to have to worry about the UI behind it, they can bring that into the Swamp, have their algorithm for maybe finding SQL injection or some other type of weakness, and use the CodeDX interface as a way of visualizing the results presented to users. We found the Swamp very helpful for us in our own testing, like Arthur was talking about, not having to worry about setting up the test application. The Swamp has over 400 test applications like web code and test suites that you can just say, I want to run this this application against these tools and get the results. So we've used that for our own testing of CodeDX to be able to quickly look at tests around it. That can be very time consuming, how to build all these test applications and
One of the things that we have going on, first of all, it's been great working. It's been, I think we've been able to help you guys find stuff, and you guys can help us find a lot of stuff. So we benefited more, I don't know. But one of the things we've got jointly between us is a standardized format for tool output results. And now, while these guys can gobble up in the raw form lots of formats, in the meantime, we've developed a standard XML format that any tool provider can generate, and it'll immediately go into our stupid viewer and their wonderful viewer. Our stupid viewer is really only for auditing purposes right now, and so right away there's a format that that we can translate any tool output in. So if you like to process tool output, you can just learn to process this one standard format and take results from just about any tool that's out there. And if you're a tool builder and produces output, everybody can immediately consume it with no effort. So instead of, we've taken that standard M times N problem to an M plus N problem. And so that's sort of a joint bit of plumbing between the secure decision folks and the SWAMP.
All right, thanks.
Yeah, and the same plumbing can be used by others. Anyone else that creates a tool, puts it in that standard output format, and then feed the SWAMP and get the benefits of user interface and everything else.
I'm going to ask these guys one more question about the business rationale behind doing this. But in the meantime, what I'd like to do is have you think about use cases. Would you find this process useful? And if so, how would you use it? And I think that's interesting for everybody here to learn what's going on. So Arthur, there had to be a business decision that said we want to participate in this. We're going to give something away. Why do you guys in?
That was a tough one, right? Because we do sell software for
That's
everybody,
right,
right?
sure.
And everyone views it as a potential loss, but
Oh, your salespeople definitely.
oh yeah, well, I don't know that I've even told them, right? Stealth project, something like that. The thing is that I started working with the various government programs like the SAMA program a few years ago, and what I realized is that when you operate in a vacuum, you come up with an idea and you think, okay, this is going to solve all the problems. And you have no idea in the problem space if you're covering 10% of it or 90%. And so what happens is now that we get a lot more feedback. And the beauty is, while I don't know about anybody's particular code, I know that maybe other tools are finding a vulnerability that I'm not finding, or because of test suites like Juliet, I may know that no one's finding this other thing, like Heartbleed, and we need to work on it. So it helps me guide my research and gives me a lot more feedback than I would be getting without.
Mark, business rationale for being part of this process?
Yeah, well, there's a few things. So obviously there's the type of things which Hunter was saying. Another thing for Grammatech is that we've actually done a lot of work with DHS, and including they've sponsored some of our research, so it's a way that we can provide something that's helpful to this effort. But in terms of the effort itself, we think that promoting static analysis just in general is good. One of the key things is making it easy to use, and that's a big focus area of the SWAMP, so we think that's great. The whole feedback thing you were talking about, I mean, the industry is somewhat immature in that different tools are finding different bugs, and so you kind of need to run multiple tools, and we're hoping that we can receive some feedback. Hey, you guys really ought to work on such and such, and there's more that you could do there in terms of technology. So that's another reason why we're eager to participate.
Right.
Basically, they said it all. So, maybe I'll show them one more sentence. So, I mean, obviously we'd like to receive feedback, and we know already that's going to create some kind of competition as well, because your tool finds that your tool doesn't. Yeah. You both claim you look for the same thing. But I think that's actually a positive thing, and it helps everyone. I mean, as you mentioned for Heartbleed, I mean, in hindsight, everyone can find Heartbleed, but we haven't found it before. So I think this is good, creating this type of little bit of competition, and I think we are reasonably confident that we will do. So, but it helps in general to advance the space. And I think that that's quite useful. And also getting feedback a lot of, I mean, we test around 50 million lines of code every night, but it's nothing compared to having 400 packages of various sources. And secondly, I mean, especially in the open source, I mean, these are not necessarily paying customers anyway, but they support a lot of the basic infrastructure of a lot of projects, and getting this improved and cleaner, I think, is generally of benefit to everyone.
Yeah, so a big part of this is the feedback aspect. I mean, when you start to build these tools, you realize that false positives and false negatives obviously play a huge role in whether the tool has a lot of value or not. And false positives are actually relatively inexpensive to drive down because you can look at the output of the tool, you can have humans review that, you can look at what the human thinks is a false positive, and you can have two humans agree, and then you can feed that back into, you can look for the patterns where that's happening, you can feed that back into engineering and make an improvement that lowers your false positive rate. And, so we built that kind of continuous improvement mentality into our service from day one, and we've been doing that for 8 years. So we've been able to drive down false positive rates pretty well. But false negative is much more challenging because what do you point to say well, you should have found that or not? And you can look through some of the ideas we've had is to look through obviously use the Juliet test suites, things like that. Use real-world test cases. But the most valuable thing we found is when we actually get feedback from a customer that says, we ran another tool and they found this and you didn't. And so that feedback is great because we know it's technically possible to find that with static analysis, right? So if you're gonna, put engineering effort into finding something, if there's another tool that's already found that, that that's valuable engineering effort. So I think that understanding what other tools are able to find that we can't find can improve us, and we can help improve the other tools the same way. Because I don't think the quality necessarily the quality of the output is the big thing that's holding back adoption of static analysis. I think the big thing is people just aren't aware of the value of this. I mean, we look at customers, and this market is just like a few percent penetrated. It's like it's not a standard thing for code to be developed with static analysis. Like I think our customer that is probably the deepest penetrated in their portfolio has like 20% of their portfolio penetrated. So they might have 10,000 applications that they want to have security involved in, and they've gotten to 2,000. And those numbers probably scale to smaller companies where they have 100 applications, and they've gotten to 10. So the awareness of the value of it, I think, can sort of rise the tide on all the boats here. So that's why we're really interested in participating.
So I think that message, as we started to talk to the various commercial vendors to open up opportunity to be a part of the swamp, that message resonates in terms of, okay, here is an opportunity to leverage an infrastructure like the swamp that has different type of software packages with different program structures, and we all know that software analysis tools behave differently in different program structures. So this provides commercial vendors insight as to whether or not their tool can find certain weaknesses that are in software. So being able to provide a way to find gaps in your tools and then have a process to close the gaps, I think that's something that can be very beneficial because the government does buy static analysis too. So if they are creating techniques that can be incorporated back into their tool, I think the community at whole, as well as those in the government who buy commercial static analysis tools, can really reap the benefits of that. So.
I think I throw it back to the panel. Ken, I haven't forgotten to check you. But was that really one of the decisions? Was that actually talked about as you were considering using this thing? Or is this an after the fact that it said, wow, we're getting really good feedback here?
Yeah, I mean, for us, we had a DHS contract to do research and development for CodeDX, and the Swamp provided us a way for us getting it into the hands of people to use and get feedback, which otherwise wouldn't have really had that kind of exposure. And we have a commercial version of CodeDX as well, and already we've had people find out about CodeDX through the Swamp. We had a large financial firm that said they found out about CodeDX because they were visiting the Swamp site and want to learn more about it. So it provides us the exposure to get people to know more about our product. We're a smaller company. Some of the other vendors here, and it allows us to get more exposure. So.
Okay, good, thanks. So as I come out to you here to think about what's being said here, there's two things that I would come up with. One is, does this apply to me? Is this something that I would consider using? I'd like the feedback on that. The other one that we haven't broached here that is actually might be at the core of an issue of people considering it is, do I trust what's being done? We're in security. How am I going to trust this? So can I see, does anybody have a use case where you say, yeah, I can see how I could be using this? Please.
Actually, I just wanted to bring up one thing too, and it's kind of a use case, kind of not, but there's another aspect that wasn't considered. So you know, I'm Dan Creed. I helped design the hardware infrastructure behind this too, but when it comes to doing static analysis like this as well, when it comes down to a matter of resources as well, one of the advantages of the Swamp is it's difficult for any organization with the vast number of OSs you have to support for your applications and stuff to have the kind of infrastructure where you can do static analysis testing easily on all these different platforms. And we're going to be adding more. I mean, we're going to be adding Windows and OS X and between all the different flavors of Linux. Honestly, how many businesses out there can devote 700 cores strictly to doing static analysis? And there's a use case for that in and of itself. I mean, running the tools and setting them up takes time and resources and hardware. And one of the advantages of the Swamp is you're getting 700 cores that's already configured and will adjust itself dynamically to whatever mix of OSs you have, where you don't have to have that technical expertise in-house now either to run it across all these different OSs. And it'll save you money.
Add that complexity mix, the next major environment coming online in the next few months is Android. So Android developers will be able to test their apps with static tools. And that's a whole other environment that you don't want to have to configure yourself if you don't have to. Oh, goodness, it's not pretty.
So, please.
Yeah, I'm in a higher ed space, so Minnesota, so we have, our system office has, we have 30 licenses, actually with Verico for the last 4 years. But we have 37 different campuses that either don't have the funding or they want to start with small, or start getting, how do we do this? I think we'd be interested in starting out with that small group, the smaller groups, because they don't, well, what's the tools, what do you use, well, does it actually apply to us? Well, maybe, maybe not, but there's a lot of hoops that they have to jump to get on board with the enterprise stuff, so I think we're really shot.
That's great. Please.
Another use case that I can see, well, two really. One might be if I'm giving consideration and sort of dipping my toe in, I could take a look at having it be a lightweight investment for new development. So if I've got a piece of application that's going forward and I want to make an assessment about what quality that I'm getting back, so that's a way for me to get a sense of the trustability and accuracy and utility, but then also application of that onto third-party open source packages that I might be using. The community benefits from that, and I would certainly benefit.
Thank you. Anybody here? Oh, in the back.
I have a question to the Swamp. Does Swamp analyze the license attached to the open source?
I'm sorry, can you ask that again?
Does Swamp analyze the license attached to the open source?
Did you say
License.
License issues. Well, have you got a scanner for license issues?
No, we haven't. Current Currently, the tool sets we have are looking for weaknesses in the code. We'll be looking at most source, bytecode, with barcode binary, and soon some other binary tools. Actually, as we, with Grammatech will be another binary tool. We move to dynamic tools. There's another whole other generation of tools that look for problems with your tool chain. They look for problems in your dependencies, look for problems in licenses, and we haven't incorporated those right now. If you have such a tool and you want to experiment with the swamp as an environment, we're happy to sit down and have a discussion with that and see how to get a development environment going for you.
Okay. I thought I had somebody over here. Anybody here?
We will probably eventually have some legal questions about if something goes horribly wrong and you folks get breached. And what happened to my code? Where did it go? What did they see? And those kinds of things that, you know, some people will start asking about that. Or well, we've been depending on you for the last 6 months, and now, you know, they've been available for 3 days. Yeah, it's great that that's inexpensive to do, but now we really are dependent on you. Well, what happens next? And,
those are two big questions. That's a good one. Is their actual code, is their application going to reside on their servers?
Yes.
Okay. So what the issue then is, you're going to keep a copy on your server. You're going to keep another copy on his. Is there any sync between the two so that they're in sync, or is he just taking specific version?
Well, so the current mechanisms that are in place are you as a developer upload new versions as you develop them, and that will trigger an assessment for the newest version. Something that's in the pipeline is pulling directly from your repository. So the thing is not really legal issues, it's purely mechanical issues. And so you can set it up. You will be able to set it up. So every time you commit, we can pull, and that will trigger an assessment. The goal of this continuous assessment model that we've been pushing is every time you do something, reach some kind of milestone, you know, in the continuous integration model, you're always doing builds and should be doing regression tests every time there's a major commit. And we see the natural extension to that as you should be doing an assessment every time you upload code. So we want to make that, you know, basically if you commit, we should be able to get the code at that moment. The old version of the code is still there, so you can go back and compare it from version to version. We don't overwrite anything, nothing goes away unless you tell it to go away.
The second part of this question for me was good too, is SLA. Are you have explicit SLA that you're going to guarantee? What's the process there?
I think I'd have to turn that back around to somebody like Marone. Do we have? I don't know if we've established any levels of service agreement. We'll give you your money back. I mean, it's some. But let me say one editorial comment. You wouldn't get an answer if you asked Google or Amazon or Microsoft that question. You wouldn't get an answer you like if you asked any of them that question. And so I guarantee I'll give you no worse of an answer than Google, Microsoft, or Amazon would give.
On a very high bar there.
Well, look at the open source community. The developers of OpenSSL give you a guarantee that there wasn't going to be a writing bug.
I will respond by saying we will be very interested in understanding what kind of assurances will make you comfortable because we are storing data and we have abilities to replicate. Now there is assurances and there is legal liability, and then the lawyers are coming in. So we will be very interested in understanding what kind of bar will make sense for you to feel comfortable.
Sure. Well, I can just imagine, I don't really care personally, but the legal group's going to ask me questions like, well, if you give the data, is every vendor going to have access to
No.
it?
So that's something.
That's different.
That's something we have very clear. We have a very clear protection model,
Okay.
and you get to choose the extent of visibility. We we hope that as many people will come to the swamp with open source packages, open source tools, and make everything public, because that's the community which we feel very connected to. But if you come and you want to keep it private to a small group or just to yourself, whether it's your tool or your results, that we have very clear, very easy. You know, we're not Facebook. We actually understand privacy and access control models, and we make them very obvious and easy to use. So you come there and say, I've got a private package, and I want to organize these results, but these results are mine, nobody else's, for, you know, for whatever your security reasons are. Easy and no problem.
I think we could get you, I think there's a white paper, privacy white paper. I think the folks from the swamp can get you a copy of the privacy white paper.
But we are also happy to expose, describe what we are doing
Sure.
in order to protect. I mean, we are an open source project, and everything that we do is open. So if you want to understand how we operate our virtual machines and how we spend a lot of effort to separate, because we really don't want somebody else to see your assessment result, unless you wanted to see it. If you find the assessment results of somebody else, then we have a problem. So we are very, very careful, and all our design is to create a very strong separation between what you're doing. We also have to deal with possibly malicious software, because if you can bring your tool or even a build can do a lot of things. We have to run your code even during a build sometimes. So and we'll be happy to open the hood and come in.
So to give you, just to give you a little view, I think careful is the wrong word. I think paranoid is probably a little better word. Basically, everything that we didn't write runs in an instantiated virtual machine. So we basically provision that virtual machine with whatever resources are needed for that assessment run or that results viewing or post-assessment run. That runs to completion. The virtual machine is quiesced, and then we deprovision it. Your virtual machines have no access to active file servers. It may have to go out across the net to pull packages, but that's just a tunnel outbound. So everything that runs in the swamp, providing our infrastructure, providing Dan's group is doing their thing the way they seem to be, runs completely isolated with no dynamic access to resources. So it's probably the most paranoid model, and it makes some people a little annoyed with us, and it creates a slightly less responsive experience for some things. But what it provides is extraordinary isolation. Because as Moreau said, we're bringing in software for other people. You know, I was just teaching my students in the OS class about Multics, and Multics has these protection rings, those who studied OS back in the dark ages, and it had the ability to run. Back in the 60s, they said we should be able to run untrusted software in a layer that had gateways to none of the standard OS interfaces. And this was the 1960s. Well, you know, we're finally catching up with the 1960s, thank God. And so we use the virtual machines for that. So they run truly separated, as if they don't even have access to a partition of the file server there, whatever is provisioned in that VM.
Okay.
How do you deal with bugs that happen only at runtime, like use after free vulnerabilities, or like OGNL injections in Java, or like expression language injection?
Well, if you're talking about from a tool point of view, some of those are actually detectable by static tools. Surprisingly, some of the semantic analyses are going on, especially in the tools doing the whole program analysis.
So if Google submits the source code of Chrome, basically you're going to be assured that there's not going to be any more use after free vulnerabilities. That is how I'm going to send it.
Well, okay, let's do static versus dynamic tool 101. A static tool will be naturally conservative and miss certain things because of its inability to do precise analysis of certain structures in the code. A dynamic tool will only be as good as your test data set. Yeah. And Heartbleed was a beautiful example. It was just below the threshold of some of the static tools, and it was a wonderful technology driver. I've had discussions with people at this table, and I'm convinced that that will make tools much stronger. But the dynamic people said, we could have found it, and yes, you could have found it if you would have known exactly how to trigger it, and if you don't know actually how to trigger it, you would have fixed it anyway. So a dynamic tool is only as good as its input data set. And a static tool is as good as its analysis capability. Dynamic tools are next on our list. So we pick static analysis because they're the most straightforward first step you make, and there's a nice population of them. There are really few, and when you say dynamic analysis tools, you actually mean 4 or 5 different things, and we're trying to rationalize that space before we figure out how to walk through that space. There's tools like Valgrind, Purify, that just check local behaviors. There's tools that torture websites. There's lots of different kinds of dynamic tools out there, and we are going to get to them. They're on our roadmap.
Thank you, Barb.
But
we're going to have to, we're at our time limit here. These guys will be here to talk to you if you like specific questions of the vendors. Right?
Ken didn't get to talk, and his stuff is really awesome. Okay, so just try it out, because it really does work, and it's got this bizarre interface that's really cool.
If you like bizarre interfaces, go look.
It's bizarre because it looks different than most other people, but it really does the job.
Right.
And other people should strive to that.
So, Mark, can I have one closing remark?
If you stand up too.
So I want to thank everybody for attending this, and once again, I want to thank those commercial partners who are here. I think it really will bring more attractive options to the swamp. But also, I encourage everyone to go to continuousinsurance.org, log on, get an account, start using the swamp, spread the word. I think we're moving in the right direction to try to position the swamp to be a pivotal part in what we do from a software development perspective. So, thank you, everybody.
So you've got the panel, you've got the guys and the girls in the black shirts. They have swamp written on them if you have questions. But say thank you, panel. That was great.
Thank you.